Hi. All right, it's 8 o'clock. I was like, I'm gonna be on time. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So let's see. Today we're going to talk about. Hi, guys. We're gonna talk about how to do a reading on yourself. How to do a reading on yourself. Let me write that in. How to do a reading on yourself. So that's what we're gonna cover today. There we go. Pin comment. There we go. Hi everybody. Okay, so readings. Have you ever had a reading? Anybody here never had a reading before? Let me know. Okay, so first, the important thing to know first is like, how do people do readings, right? So some of you might know this story about me, but before I got into this work, I was a hi Diana. Oh, naturally loved. You've never had a reading. No way. Okay. So, I grew up Catholic, so it was no way you either, vintage Vivs. Well, let's talk about like what, kind of what is happening during a reading. But just to give you a little bit of backstory, I was a fashion and beauty editor for many years. I never thought I was going to do this work. This was kind of like an awakening that I had, and this started happening, and that's how I got into this work. But before, you had tarot a couple of times. Okay, yeah, the cards are awesome. So I decided that I had this boyfriend who broke up with me, and then like when that happened, I started to seek out psychics because I was like looking for answers. I was raised Catholic, and my mom like always made me feel like, or even just the religion, not just my mom, that like that was a big no-no, don't get a reading, like super scary, like God's gonna strike you, like lightning's gonna hit you and you're gonna get struck by lightning by God or whatever. But I was so desperate at that point that I was like, I just needed to know that like life was gonna be okay, because I had lost this boyfriend and I thought like it was the end of the world. So I went on this like psychic hunt, and that's actually like what started my like obsession with these psychics. I was like, this is fascinating. And I definitely met a few really shitty ones at first. I had this one lady that told me that I was never going to be happy unless I ended up with this ex-boyfriend of mine. And I was like, oh my gosh, great. I'm never going to be happy because we're not getting back. And then of course she was like, and for $400, I can heal your heart. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that was like my first experience. But then ultimately, I came across this one psychic who like changed everything for me, because she basically was reading by connecting with angels, and that felt very safe for me because angels in the Bible like are good things. So I thought like, okay, well, this is not scary. So that was like just something that I could connect to at first, and she was very spot on. She actually predicted my husband like years before I actually met him. So she was one of the people that like really, got me into some of the work. Like I started studying about angels and like all this kind of, I was fascinated by what she was doing. What was weird is that I guess when I had the reading, I asked myself, I remember asking like, can I do that? Which is kind of a weird thing to do. It's kind of a weird question to ask like when you get a reading. But coincidentally, I actually have a lot of clients that come to me that ultimately ask that question too, because the truth is we all have intuition, and we can all be trained to do these things. So I was not born I was never that kid at 4 years old like predicting my grandfather's death or seeing a dead person in my room. Like that was not my story at all. It wasn't until my 20s that I had this little crisis, and I started getting really interested into in the metaphysics and in connecting and what was out there and what was available and my intuition. And I actually developed it. So I studied, and I was super curious about it. I'm just like a big nerd about it, and that is actually what has made me be a really good reader. So because of that, my journey was like that. I'm super grateful my journey was like that, because of that, now I know that anybody can learn to do this. And I'm really passionate about teaching people to connect on their own, because you don't want to always be going to a psychic, and you don't want to feel like somebody else is your healer or somebody else has that connection and you don't. So, that's why like in my programs, one of the things that I teach is like how to connect, all that kind of stuff. So that's my little story about and then of course, like I went down this this deep rabbit hole, and like ultimately just decided that I wanted it to be my work. So first things first is that when you're getting a reading, what are they connecting to? That's the first question that we kind of have to ask. Where are they getting their information from, right? Like that's super fascinating. There's one woman I went to, she was connecting to angels. Like she had these angels that she worked with, and then she would connect to your angels as well, and that's where she was getting her info. If you're doing like cards, for instance, and the truth is some readers know what they're connecting to and some do not. So like even if you ask them, they may not know, because some people are just like, oh, I'm intuitive, it's just coming through. I like to, like what I call check IDs. I like to know what I'm connecting to. I don't want to just connect to anything, because there's like, you can connect to anything. I mean, there's all sorts of beings and things that like you can connect to. So even when you're doing cards, yes, the person is using like the image of the card or the method. So like in tarot, there's like a method, right? So so they can be like using the card to receive that information, but something is guiding them through that card. So they're pulling information from somewhere. And it's not this simple, but I'm gonna like break it down into two things that people are usually connecting to. They're either connecting to some sort of other being, so like a spirit guide, an angel, a past loved one, those kind of things, right? And they're pulling information from that, or they're reading the person's energy. They're usually doing one or the other. They may not be aware of what they're using, but basically like those are the two options when you are reading, when you're getting divine messages. You're either pulling it from a being, or you are like reading somebody's energy. Most of you are probably reading energy all the time anyways, especially those of you who are sensitive. Raise your hand. If you're empaths, if you feel like you absorb a lot, you, without knowing it, you're going to like you were probably that kid that like your mom would walk into the room and you knew if she was pissed off, or if you knew that she was happy or whatever, because you were reading some sort of energy on them, even though they weren't saying anything. So we are reading people's energy all the time. I love to teach always. Like I always say that like we have these like little wizard wands, we're like a wizard and we have these wands and we're just kind of throwing it around. If we're just sensitive, or we're like every once in a while picking up people's vibes but have no control over it, like that's fine, but then you have no control. You have no no direction, and you can't use it on demand. So there's actually a way to read energy on demand, and that happens through getting to know the chakras. So the we have a lot of chakras, but we can work off just the 7 chakras, which, crown, third eye, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus, sacral, and root. And if you learn those chakras, those of you who have maybe studied Reiki, any of my Reiki people over here, you're gonna know a little bit about these chakras, or yoga teacher training people over here. Like you usually learn these chakras. And as you get to know the chakras and understand them, you can then ultimately move into the next phase where like you close your eyes and you can start to sense people's chakras. You're either going to be able to see them, or you may feel them, right? Like you can like put your hands on the chakras and you can start to receive information from people. And that's how you begin to read energy. We can read energy beyond just people's energy. We can read the energy of a room. We can read the energy of a pet. All these sorts of things. So, and you can play with that. So energy, we all are made of energy. Everything has energy. It's just unseen. So learning to read it seems like a super power, but the truth is it's just learning to focus on a certain vibration and understanding that vibration. The same way some people have an ear for music, you can have like an eye for energy and learn how to read that. So that is very cool. And like some people, when you get readings, that's what they're doing. I do that in my readings. It's also what we teach in Soul Leader. So anybody interested in doing readings, we teach that process in Soul Leader, how to read energy, how to read to the centers. Now, the other thing is to connect to different things, which most of you have probably been to readings where they're connecting to something for the most part. So people will connect to spirit guides. So spirit guides, this is probably the most popular, I would say, between spirit guides. Well, they're all popular, but spirit guides are, sorry, something was coming through. So spirit guides are like spiritual coaches that are assigned to us. And for those of us, some of us who are doing readings or are called to intuitive work or are called to like healing or coaching work, we are typically going to have spirit guides that are there to do that, like work with us and to do that intuitive work with us. So a lot of times you'll meet people that read that are working with a spirit guide, and you'll hear them say like, they're saying, or my guides are saying, I understand this from, because they're connecting to this divine being that is basically translating some of the information that's going on with the other person. Now, you don't need to be reading another person. If you get to know your own spirit guide, you'll be able to get a lot of information. So that's why I always say I'm a spirit guide advocate, because they're just so helpful. If you learn to meditate and connect to your spirit guide and start to have a relationship with that spirit guide, that's when you receive a lot of downloads and you end up being able to feel more guided in this path, that you're not just like living off little signs, like, oh, if I'm on the right path, show me a bird, which is great for so long, but at some point those signs like get confusing and there's no confirmation, all that kind of stuff. So the next level of like reading signs, which I'm sure a lot of you are asking for signs, is anybody asking for signs? Then you can move on to learning to meditate with your spirit guide. That's usually a shamanic practice as well. Shamans work with spirit guides a lot. So I teach that in Soul Leader and Soul Seeker, but in a very basic way to connect with your spirit guide, you close your eyes, you calm yourself into meditation, you bring yourself to a place of nature. So just like, imagine yourself in a beach or like a beautiful place of nature that like means something to you. And then you call in the spirit guide, and basically the spirit guide will come sit with you, or you'll feel the energy, and then you start developing that relationship. And you can do that through guided meditations, basically. And then once you start to connect, then you can start asking questions. And it's always helpful when you guys are connecting to spirit guides or past loved ones or whatever you're connecting to. It's always helpful to have a notebook with you, because there's different ways that we pull there's different psychic senses. There's like seeing, there's feeling, there's knowing, there's different psychic senses. So basically like you're going to receive the download, and if you don't write it down, it's easy to get confused and it's easy to kind of like doubt it or not understand it. So I do, actually I'll show you guys, I have my notebooks from today's readings. Well, it's not a notebook. I actually use a clipboard, and it's like a big mess. But when I'm meditating, I'm writing down a bunch of notes. So I meditate before meeting with the client, and in order for me to understand what is coming through, I write it down, and that is like how it gets very clear. So as you start connecting and you start meditating, you're basically like going in and out from sitting in that meditation, connecting to your guide or whatever it is that you decide to connect to. And then having your little notebook, so like you close your eyes and then like write down what's coming to you, go back into closing your eyes, and you start focusing on the messages that you're receiving. Is everybody with me, or questions? Am I going too fast? So that's like the basic of connections. And again, you can connect to spirit guides. You can connect to angels. Angels are, spirit guides are more like coaches on your path. They know like what your purpose is and what your path is. So they're trying to guide you along that path. And then, oh, thanks, Jen. And then an angel is more like protective. And Steph, no, this is great. Thank you, Nikki. You're welcome. And then an angel is more like protective and will they do a lot of healing and calming and all that kind of stuff, but they also have information. And then we also have past loved ones. Past loved ones or people from our ancestral lines are great, but just remember that they're limited, because your grandmother, for instance, who passed, who may have been an amazing grandmother this lifetime, and you guys were super close, and and she was a lovely person. When she passes, she's just a soul like all of us, and you may be an older soul than her, for instance. So the information that she's getting is still limited because she's not like as evolved as like a spirit guide would be. So they're helpful. I mean, I connect to my past loved ones all the time, especially if I find that there's some sort of like ancestral healing that I need to be doing. Like if I realize that there's this thread let's say in the female lineage, and I'm like, I'm part of this pattern and I continue it in my lifetime. I'm acting like this with my husband, and my mom was like that, and my grandmother was like that, whatever. Let's say I'm trying to heal something in the lineage. They're very helpful for that. But for anything like beyond that, or like very spiritual, having to do with your soul, your past loved ones are going to be limited. So just kind of remember, you call them in when you, or even if you just want to like chat with them, you know. So just know that there's a limitation to that, because we don't know how old that soul is or how advanced that soul is, and they're also not assigned to you as your coach. Emily, can you feel like you have different guides at some stages? Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So we have several spirit guides, and some of them come to us. It's like they are changing. Yes, so they change. Some of them, and they have specialties also. So some of them might come in like for business or career, whatever. And then you'll have one who comes in to work with you on the divine feminine or something. And then this other one is coming to work with you because you're becoming a parent, or, you know, you're going through some sort of transformation. So I currently work regularly with 3, and then I have like another one that comes in. But they've all come in stages and for different things, and I use them for different reasons. So we have multiple. I have one who's like my main guide that does all the readings with me, but then I also have like some that come in and out. Oh, and I'm sorry, you know what? In addition to spirit guides, angels, past loved ones, people also connect to what we call archangels, or ascended masters. So an ascended master would be Jesus, you know, any of the saints, you know, Buddha, like all of the different like Hindu goddesses, that kind of stuff. Who do I see a lot? Kali. She comes like for death basically, and I see her a lot in the readings. So people also connect, and sometimes those beings are with people, but they can be with like multiple people, right? Jesus is not just with me or you. Jesus can be with everybody at the same time, where your spirit guide is like just going to be assigned to you. Okay. Do you have any animal guides? That's a great question, Lee. We're actually doing animal communication tomorrow, you guys, at 7:30 here on Instagram Live. One of my favorite teachers, Linda, will be coming on and talking. She is more of the expert on animals and animal connections and spirit animals and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to have her. So maybe hold that question for tomorrow. I do not work with animal guides myself, because I don't resonate with it so much, but I do see animals like in my readings, and I see them more as spirit animals that are coming with like a type of energy that I need to understand. But I'm not necessarily like working with one the way that I work with like my spirit guide. But a lot of healers do that. Okay, so those are the two. So basically that's it, guys. So like, if you're interested in being able to read yourself, being able to like get your own messages, or even read other people, you're gonna have to decide what feels more right for you. Do you want to learn to read energy, or do you want to learn to connect to guides? And then start playing with it. And especially if you want to connect with your spirit guide, you'd be surprised how much the spirit guide will teach you. I like the way that I read energy was actually something that was taught to me from my spirit guide. Like in meditation, I would just sit there because I was so curious, and I was just downloading this information that my spirit guide actually taught me how to do readings. I didn't go study how to do readings. So you'd be surprised, like if you can develop that connection, there's so much information that you can get as you start to just sit and be patient. And then reading energy is just cool, because then you can even for those of you who are dating, you can be like, let me just read this person's energy. And you get so much information. So reading energy is really helpful and really cool as well, and very helpful for yourself. I'll read my own energy to see what I'm carrying, and that's very helpful to me. So anybody have a preference or an interest? Are you feeling called to one or the other? Let me know. I forgot my water. Oh, there it is. I'll wait here. Hi, Zena. Hi, Karina. Steph. Can you do both read energy and connect, or would that confuse the download? No, absolutely. Like, so in my readings, I do both. I connect first. I do like this process of connecting. I go into the Akashic records, all this kind of stuff, and then I download like whatever I need to download that's just general, and then I go into the person's energy. And as I'm reading the person's energy, I am working with my spirit guide to like help me understand some things that I don't understand. Naturally loved energy, yeah, super cool. So I would start with starting to understand the chakras. Emily, is it normal then when you are stressed, you cannot access your guides, angels, etc.? You know, definitely. And that's why I don't use cards, even though I do them for my Monday readings. I don't really use my cards in my practice, but I think cards are a great feedback for those days where you're stressed and like you're just not able to calm and connect yourself. I at this point I can always connect because I'm connecting all the time. So it really is a muscle. You know, like as you get stronger in it, you'll be able to connect even when you're stressed. But I like cards for that reason, because if you're having a hard day and you really can't understand what's happening, like you can pull a card, like sit and focus on it, really put your heart into it and receive the message. So that's what, yeah, I would like to do both. Yeah, Emily. Well, Emily, you got to join Soul Leader. You'll love it. Did I miss any questions here? Steph, yes, cool. Yeah, it's really cool work. So I, like, just so you guys know, like I actually, like I said, like I didn't expect to do this work at all. Like I actually I started getting like really interested in, like after I met that psychic, I was like, oh, like this is so cool. I started to study energy, and I actually studied hypnotherapy. And when I got into Reiki, that's when like all the chakras started talking to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? Like I could read energy. So I really liked Reiki for that reason, because it like just gives you the basics of the chakras. But once I got into that, that's when, so like I just started waking up to these gifts, and then they didn't just like show up on my doorstep. I obviously practiced them, but I was really just trying to like do it for myself. And then ultimately I felt very called to do it for others. Oh, Stephanie, thank you. We have more episodes coming on the podcast. We're going to get there. Do you teach yes, Emily. We in Soul Leader, the program that I have, we teach Akashic Records is the last thing that we go over. I love the Akashic Records. We teach that, and we teach like how to download information from the Akashic Records, because there's so many things that you can get from the Akashic Records. It just takes a little bit. We work up to it because the Akashic Records is so heavy on the energy that you have to learn to like have the stamina and the focus to access the information that's in there. So we have the Akashic Records at the end of our program in Soul Leader, but we do get there. I prefer Oracle over tarot cards. Me too, Emily. Tarot never like, I don't know, it's similar to astrology. I love having friends that do astrology and tarot, and I love experiencing it, but I was never called. I find it a little complicated, actually. And what's funny is that when I predict things for the year or whatever, I'll compare it to like my girlfriend who does astrology, and she's like, it's so funny. She's like, how you pick it up, it's the same thing that I'm picking up from astrology, but you're just picking it up from energy. So it's just a different way of doing it. Do you see people's aura and energy inside the body? So my psychic gifts come from my third eye. So my strongest sense is the sense of hearing. I can hear, I can see, and I have a knowing. And I also sense. Look, I have a few of them. I have 4. There's 6, and I have 4. And but I don't see with my eyes open. So there are actually people that will like see a spirit or whatever. I can, but I have decided to like, that doesn't interest me. I don't want to like go around the world and like be seeing a bunch of shit. So I made that very clear. I made like an energetic boundary that I didn't want to have to see any of that. But every once in a while when I'm talking to somebody and concentrating them, I will see an aura with my eyes open. But when I close my eyes and I start accessing that third eye is when I can read energy and see people's auras or whatever that I need to do. But that is with my third eye, which is basically like what happens when you're dreaming. You know, your eyes are closed, but there's all this visual happening. That's what the third eye does. Emily, the program has already started. It's self-study, but we have I answer questions every 2 weeks in a group format, so it's like half and half. There's like a mentorship option where it's just part of the group where I'm answering questions, but you watch the videos on your own time and you do the meditations on your own time, but you come into the group and you're able to be supported by me. That would spook me for sure, Jen. Like I have people that study under me that like just see all the time, and I'm like, that's so distracting. Like I remember when I was first studying, and I was getting into angels. That was like my first, that was the first thing I started connecting to. I remember being like, okay guys, I do not want to see you. Like, do not come to my bed with your big ass angel wings and like try to wake me up in the middle of the night. Have no interest in that. Like, you can talk to me, I'll hear you, or you can come into my dreams, or I can sense you, but I do not want to see you. That sounds like a monster. So that was like my boundary when it came to when it came to the work. So I'm with you. I'm like not interested in that. Oh, thank you, Steph. Steph says, highly recommend the Soul Leader program if you're feeling called. Thanks. I love it. It's one of I love all the programs, but so Soul Leader is like the second level in a tier of programs that we have. So, yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Any other questions about connecting or about doing your own read? If you're interested in this, I definitely just recommend we actually have a spirit guided meditation. It's nikkinovo.com/spirit, and it's just a free download. And it brings you to meet your spirit guide, and you can start there for sure. Or if you find that you're interested in energy, start reading up on chakras. And then once you hit a wall, you need a little bit more training, come to me and join the program when you're ready. Okay. And it's a really cool way to make extra money too. You can start doing readings. Everybody loves readings. And there's always going to be business for readings. And it's such a beautiful, I believe that everybody should have a good reading every once in a while. And that's why I love to teach it. So, Hi, Chelsea. So yeah, any other questions, guys? So tomorrow we're going to be doing animal communication. I'm really excited with Linda. And she is going to be teaching us how to connect to our animals, the ones that are living, how to connect to the animals that have passed. Voy a practicar. Oh, you were listening the whole time. I didn't know you were still here. Okay, so that is tomorrow at 7:30. I'll also put the post so you can have a little countdown and remember. Emily, I've heard that you shouldn't do readings for yourself. I usually pull a card for a focus of intention, not a full reading. Why can't you do a reading for yourself? You could totally do a reading for yourself. It can sometimes be a little harder, Emily, because it's hard to kind of separate from what your hope is, what your projection is, what you want the answer to be. But if you can really just empty yourself and be I'm open to I want to be guided by you. I'm open to what direction you're trying to send me in, then you're good. If you want to pull a card and you want it to look a certain way and have a certain outcome, then yeah, you're going to get in your own way. Sarah, how to distinguish between your own thoughts and what's coming in, even in meditation? That's a good question, Sarah. When you start to download information, you'll notice that the wording and all that stuff, it comes slower. Your brain goes really, really fast and your thoughts go very, very fast. And once you start to download, it comes from, in meditation specifically, it comes from a place of focus. You kind of start to see something, or you try to focus on something, and it's really coming from from the heart. It's really coming from here. It's coming through your body rather than the busyness of the mind. So I actually feel the information coming in a different place. Sometimes I'll feel it coming in my ear or my third eye, but it's not coming from my brain. I know when, and you can even practice meditation, just regular meditation, sit there to find quiet, and you're going to hear your brain. And once you know what your brain sounds like, then you're going to know what a download sounds like. So if you guys, we actually teach that in Soul Seeker because it's an important part of the process. We have to understand our brain and what the thought, the other day I was getting a massage with this amazing healer that I love in Miami, with Krista, and I'm sitting there and I had to like quiet myself, and my brain was like nuts. And I know my brain because I sit with it every morning, but I happened to like just have a crazy day that day. And it's so funny. It's such a different vibe than downloading. Downloading is like peaceful. It's quick. It doesn't talk a lot. It's like to the point, where my brain is like, la, 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 and like it just goes so fast. So you do have to get to know your brain first in order to know what a download is. Chelsea, can't wait for animal communication tomorrow. My cat Mickey is excited too. Yes, bring your pets. I will bring Molly, our puppy. Super helpful. You're welcome, Sarah. So yes, animal. I'm excited for tomorrow too. So Linda has taught. I studied some of my shamanism studies with Linda. She was my teacher, and I really just like never got into the animal communication. And I try not to like ask too much of her when it comes to like my dog. But I'm really excited for tomorrow because I think it'll be fun. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're at the 30 mark, so put the rest of the kids to sleep. Thanks for being here with me. Again, if this was interesting to you, I totally recommend Soul Leader. We're probably going to up the price in a couple of weeks because we're going to change it a little bit. So if you're feeling called to it, do it now. And if not, you guys are just go down the rabbit hole. Start searching, start getting meditation, start sitting in meditation with your spirit guide, and really use this divine guidance that's at your disposal. Like life will be better and easier and more guided if you start connecting, and it's easy to do. All right. If you have any questions, you can always DM me. Thank you for being here. I always love being here with you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for animal communication. Okay. Bye.